Just before we get into this video, guys, if you want to follow me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, the links are here. And if you also want to support me on Patreon as well and help out my channel, that would be absolutely awesome as well. But let's get on with the video. So, with Ben Affleck recently announcing that he is no longer going to be Batman, what I thought I would do is take a look at some of the other Batmen that we've had, as well as Affleck, and decide who's the best. I recently did this same video, but with Spider-Man instead. So, I mean, it works out. Batman has been portrayed by a number of people on the big screen before, so let's chat about a few of them. So I'm only going to be talking about Batmen from 1989 onwards because I haven't really watched too much of Adam West, and I know that there's some like 1930s and 40s versions of Batman. Like, there's so many, like I'm not just going to talk about every single one of them, just the main ones. So Michael Keaton onwards, basically. I'm also only talking about live action, so Kevin Conroy, as much as I love him, not in contention here. So let's start off with Michael Keaton then. Now, I really do like the original Batman movie. I think it was revolutionary in terms of superhero movies. A lot of the tropes that are used in that, you see now in so many different movies. I think it's fair to say that that original Tim Burton Batman movie is kind of what reinvigorated the desire for superhero movies. People could argue that it was the X-Men movies in the early 2000s, or maybe even Spider-Man, but Batman 1989 definitely showed that there is a market for it. So right off the bat then, Michael Keaton gets off to a good start. And I think in terms of his portrayal of Batman, he's really, really cool. I think it's a bit goofy that he has to turn his neck constantly, but that's kind of a product of the times and not really anything to do with Keaton. It's definitely a sign of the times as well that his Bruce Wayne is very late 80s, like with turtlenecks and sort of like a mini perm, and I don't know, his Bruce Wayne is a bit questionable in places. The let's get nuts scene especially is so weird to me. I don't know what the general consensus on that theme is. I don't know if people find it genuinely good, if people find it a meme. I really don't know, but I find it really bizarre. I mean, going into his second movie as well, again, really cool version of Batman. He is intimidating, he can be creepy, you know, you kind of see him sometimes hiding in the shadows, basically just being Batman, and that aspect of the character I think he does really well. His Bruce Wayne though, I'm not huge on. Oh, these two, right, I'm not talking about them. I am just flat out not talking about them because they're both fucking terrible, right? Val Kilmer is probably the lesser of the two evils, but George Clooney is appalling, right? They're both flat out terrible. Of course they're not the best version of Batman. Their movies are absolutely fucking terrible. And yeah, the fact that George Clooney is still apologising to this day for what he did to Batman, that tells you all you need to know. We didn't get any Batman movies for a while because, well, George Clooney and Joel Schumacher, they went and just hit the final nail in the coffin, didn't they? However, in 2005, we got a brand new version of Batman as portrayed by Christian Bale. Now, Christian Bale is the one that I remember the most and I probably have the most attachment to because when Batman Begins came out, I was 10 years old. And in terms of the quality of the movies, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises, it's probably the best superhero trilogy that we've ever had. People can make an argument for other superhero trilogies, but I genuinely don't think that there is a bad movie or a noticeably subpar entry into that trilogy of movies. People will say that The Dark Knight Rises is the weakest of the three, and I will agree with that, but at the same time, it's still a really good movie, even though it does have its nonsensical moments. In terms of its portrayal of Batman though, specifically Christian Bale's performance, as Bruce Wayne, I think Christian Bale is fantastic. He is probably the best Bruce Wayne that we have had, like flat out brilliant. He's everything I would imagine Bruce Wayne to be. He's suave, he's sophisticated, he's a bit of a bellend. All this charm and suave that he throws in people's faces, that's just a mask, really. But Christian Bale just does it so good. But then we get to his portrayal of Batman. Now, I think in parts he can be a really good Batman. I think the fact that it is set in this more gritty, realistic world, so the real world, you see Batman has a certain amount of limitations, and I like that. I like seeing that. But the one thing with hindsight that, to be honest, I didn't really mind at the time, and you guys know what's coming now, but what I do really take issue with is the fucking voice that he puts on. It is just ridiculous. Throughout the entire trilogy, the voice just gets gruffer and worse and harder to understand, and it really has not aged well at all. When you think of Batman, you think of this character who is really intimidating, you know? He drags villains up like by a grapple hook and dangles them over roofs. You hear all these rumors about this Batman character that's running around the place, like taking down certain crime organizations and gangs. People should be terrified of this guy, basically this one-man army, and then you're on the receiving end of his thing. That's all you hear, and immediately you are taken out of that incredible build-up to the Batman character that these movies portray. Like, that voice is just so over the top. I don't know who told Christian Bale to do it. I don't know if that was his decision, but somebody, Christopher Nolan or someone, should have just pulled him aside and said, yeah, look, that voice isn't the best. It's not really the most intimidating. You're kind of ruining the scene here, and you're kind of taking away from, you know, the mystique of your character and the threat and the fear factor of your character. So maybe just do your own voice, but a bit deeper, not sound like you have full-on throat cancer. Besides the voice, he is a good Batman. And then finally we have Ben Affleck, or Batfleck, whatever people want to call him. Now, I remember when Ben Affleck was first announced as Batman, and the whole internet, including myself, just sort of went, oh, fuck's sake. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Daredevil. I don't know if people just generally don't like Ben Affleck or rate his acting ability, but for me personally, like, I just wasn't excited about his portrayal. However, then I saw the first picture of him in costume and I thought, holy fucking shit, like, that looks like a comic book panel. That first image of Ben Affleck was honestly incredible, and I immediately got excited because that is exactly what you want from Batman. Like, obviously it's in the DC universe and we know that Superman is already in that universe, so you're not going to get the gritty realistic take that you got with Christian Bale, whose Batman is very practical looking, like he's wearing actual armor, whereas this was just like, holy shit, like he is jacked to fuck. He is huge. He's got like the little bat ears. Like, in terms of the design of the costume, that is the best one. And now, contrary to what a lot of people think, I actually do enjoy Batman v Superman, particularly the extended cut. I think it is a pretty good movie. I understand the criticisms that people have of it, and I do share some of them as well. I think adding in Doomsday was a mistake. Adding in Wonder Woman and the rest of the Justice League cameos, I don't think was as effective as they wanted it to be. This movie purely should have been Batman v Superman. I mean, it's in the name, but I think we got too much Dawn of Justice. But in terms of his portrayal, like, holy fuck, there are some points in this movie where, again, I think that I'm watching a comic book, because Ben Affleck's Batman is fucking sick. When he's throwing down and he's kicking ass and he's doing all sorts of shit, it is just out and out Batman to me. This is a really, really brutal Batman. And yes, I know that people take issue with the fact that he kills, and I do as well. It was a mistake to go in that direction, but when you think about it, this version of Batman is a lot older and has seen some shit and probably has broken a bit. That's what I think in my head anyway, to justify it. I mean, the action scene in the warehouse I think is awesome. His Bruce Wayne is pretty cool as well. Now, it's not as good as Bale's, but I think Ben Affleck is also a decent enough Bruce Wayne. He is suave, fed up with the world. He's still very melancholy like Bruce Wayne is, but he's also a bit cocky, particularly in that scene where he's talking to Clark Kent and they're sort of discussing Batman and Superman and their morality and who people should be looking up to. I thought that was a really cool scene and a good scene for Bruce Wayne. The Justice League version, however, I mean, I do like Justice League, but the portrayal of Batman and Bruce Wayne in that film is not great. It's obvious to me that the studios, and obviously the change of directors, so it's basically Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder's contradictory approach to the film, shall we say. You can tell that in some scenes he's really effective. Like, I think the scene at the very beginning of Justice League is a very good Batman scene, but I think when Batman is being thrown around and he's coming out with quips, they don't really work. Like, Batman does joke and come out with quips every now and again, but he plays it so straight, whether it's in animated form or in the comic books. He's so deadpan and serious, and that's why it's funny. But this one was borderline jovial in places, and like I say, I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's because of studio interference, if it's because of the different directors, or if it's Ben Affleck himself, but this portrayal really let Ben Affleck's Batman down. Like, these three all have their flaws, they all have their highs, and I think some of the highs that one of them will have is a totally different high to something that another one will have. So like I say, I think Christian Bale is the best Bruce Wayne, and I think Ben Affleck is the best Batman, whereas I think Michael Keaton has a nice balance of both, even though I'm not overly keen on his Bruce Wayne. So it's an interesting one. For me though, the Dark Knight movies are really, really good, but the voice is just like, what the fuck are you doing? But then some of the action is great. But then I look at the action in Batman v Superman and I'm just like, that is pure comic book Batman. So I'm really conflicted with this one. So in the comments below, guys, let me know what you think. Who would you say is the best Batman? Because I can't really call it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like on it. Subscribe for more. Social media and Patreon links will be in the description below. So if you would follow me on any of those things, then I would absolutely love you forever. But until next time, guys, you take care of yourselves. Goodbye. I can see an argument for Bale, and I can see an argument for Keaton. I'm thinking of fucking football players.